Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we talk about the biggest comeback win in Philadelphia sports last night. The Phillies, obviously, it was the Sixers, but the Phils had a great comeback win in Los Angeles against the Angels. And the guys who got it done, well, some people are going to owe them a couple apologies. Plus, we'll preview Game 3. The Phillies have a chance to win another series. Zack Wheeler on the mound. Is a win coming in Game 3 for Wheels. Also, as we wrap up, an MLB first for the 2024 season for the Phils. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. That's the number one way to help us out. All that great stuff. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's go ahead and talk about a big comeback win in Philadelphia sports last night. Yes, after the Sixers finished up, the Phillies were out on the West Coast taking on the Angels in Game 2. They dropped Game 1 behind a rough outing from Christopher Sanchez and an even rougher inning from Seranthony Dominguez. But yesterday, the Phillies had a chance to bounce back a little bit. And Spencer Turnbull had a little bit of added motivation in the final game of April. There's a chance that we could have just seen Spencer Turnbull's final start for a while. We're going to talk about that in a second. But let's tell you what happened in the game. It was a reverse score almost to the number of Game 1 of this series. The Angels won Game 1 6-5. The Phillies won Game 2 7-5. And that's not what the score looked like late, right? The Phillies got up early. They went up 3-0 early on in the game because of, just an absolute bomb from Kyle Schwarber. 421 feet to right field. Nuke from Schwarber that scored Castellanos and scored Bryson Stott. You're up 3-0 in the second. You say, okay, well, the Phils are off and running again. If Turnbull settles in, you're good. And Turnbull did settle in. He only allowed one run through the first 5 innings worth of work for him. The issue is the 6th inning is where it got a little bit squirrely. Now, Turnbull went 5 1/3 innings pitch. He only ended up with 2 earned runs on his credit point. And Junior Marte gave up another earned run on in his 2/3 of an inning in relief in that 6th inning that we're talking about, where it got a little bit squirrely. But 3 runs given up in total. Only one of those earned for Junior Marte. So a total of 5 runs allowed there, and you're looking at a 5-3 deficit all of a sudden in the 6th inning. The Phillies only scored in 3 innings in this game. But we talked about the double-digit hits. When did they get back to that? They had 11 hits in the game, and some of those big ones came in the 9th. We'll talk about the 9th in a second. But Kyle Schwarber, 1 for 5, but one of those was a 3-run home run. That's fine. You'll take that every time. Trey Turner, 2 for 5. Cool. Good with that. Bryce Harper, 0 for 3. He's Bryce Harper. He'll be fine. Alec Boehm, 2 for 5 again. He stays red hot. He has an RBI as well. Guy's unbelievable. JT Realmuto, 1 for 4. Brandon Marsh is starting to cool off a little bit. He's down to hitting 269. He was 0 for 4 in the game. Still think he's a very good hitter. Just weird stretch right now. Nick Castellanos, a 3-hit ball game. 3 for 4, including a big swing that we're going to talk about in the 9th inning when we talk about it. Stott, 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored. And Johan Rojas, 1 for 4, his one swing, a big one. But, yeah, Casty having a 3-hit game is huge. Rojas getting another hit on there. He's up to 241 is huge. The only guy in this lineup batting below 200 is Nick Castellanos, and he was a huge part of this game. But let's pick it up in the 9th inning, because you go ahead and see Carlos Estevez come in for the Los Angeles Angels, their closer. And he's got a pretty solid look at closing this one down right in the 9th inning. You got to face guys like Nick Castellanos and Johan Rojas, and we know their offensive ability at this moment. Well, down 1 in the final inning, because in the 8th, Alec Boehm had a big RBI single to kind of set up the opportunity. Singles, Trey Turner scores. You go into the 9th inning, down 1, you're like, okay, you got to make some magic happen. Nick Castellanos goes ahead and first pitch, fastball, 4-seam up, takes one out to right center, 386 feet. It was amazing because Nick Castellanos made that swing, and he put his hand up in the air, like finger up, pointing to where the ball was going. Like he knew it immediately. And the ball wasn't out by that much. I told you, 386 feet. So glad it was out. That would have been a pretty rough look if that ball hadn't cleared the fence. But he goes yard. Then Bryson Stott gets on base. You're in a tie game. You're like, okay, how do we go ahead and work this out? How do we find a way to get more runs across? Well, Johan Rojas hits his first home run of the year. He goes to left center, 390 feet, just 4 more than what Nick Castellanos left the yard by. And it was a slider, kind of low, and he went down, I should say, and got it. And to see the guys that hit the big home runs, like those big late home runs off Estevez to give the Phillies this win, be Castellanos and Rojas, when so many people gave them grief earlier on in the season, you just love to see it. This is proof positive. There are 162 baseball games a year, and I know that's not news to you, at least in the regular season. But what you have to remember is these guys are going to have their days. Ultimately, the strength of the lineup is the most important thing. As a team, are you talented enough that when one guy slumps, you have other guys to pick him up? And the Phillies absolutely are. They've proven that. But what that also means is when guys struggle, you have a little more leeway to give them. You don't have to freak out when Nick Castellanos starts the year slow. Like, he's going to have moments where he wins you ball games. And he was a big reason, a 3-hit game, 2 of them bloops, 1 of them a blast. He was a big reason why you won last night's ball game. Johan Rojas, people were worried about him hitting at the major league level, even through the first couple weeks of the season. Huge home run, ends up being the game winner. Like, it's ironic, right? Or maybe poetic justice is the better way to describe it, that those are the 2 guys that do it on the same day to homer in the 9th inning to make sure that the Phillies have a victory. Like, for it to be the 2 guys that have probably caught the most flack from the fan base so far this year is awesome. But also it's a reminder of just how you need to consume baseball. They're going to have their days. You're going to see moments, excuse me, fighting allergies, but you're going to see moments where guys that have been cold all year step up in big spots. You're going to see moments where guys that have been hot all year don't come through in big spots, unless they're Alec Boehm, who comes through all the time. Another huge RBI hit for him. That's just par for the course. But take a deep breath when it comes to the early criticisms of guys like Castellanos and Rojas and anybody on this team. This team's talented. They're going to win. They're going to figure things out. Another guy that, I mean, we got to talk about Spencer Turnbull's start as well, because I know what happened later on in the game. And I know the final score shows you gave up 5 runs, and it's like, it's not a Wheeler start. It's not a Ranger start. You don't normally see that type of score when one of those guys are out there on the mound. But Turnbull's final line was 5 1/3 innings pitch, a 4-hit ball, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, a home run allowed. Like, I don't know, man. He battled a little bit. He threw 98 pitches through 5 1/3 innings, so that's not ideal. But does that seem like a guy who should not be in the rotation? Does his 1.67 ERA strike you as somebody who should not be out there as part of the starting Phillies rotation right now? No, I can't move him to the pen. If they do, I think it's a mistake. I think it should be Christopher Sanchez. He's seemed the shakiest to me. Taijuan Walker's not going to go to the pen, so I think Turnbull should be in the rotation. That's what I do. We keep you updated. But if that was indeed Turnbull's last chance to prove himself, I'd say that his record and his ability to keep guys off the base paths has been proven. He didn't get the win last night. Jose Alvarado got the win for throwing in the 8th inning, throwing a shutdown bottom in the 8th. But I look at that and I just feel very, very good about Turnbull continuing to start games for this team. The question is, does Rob Thomson feel that way? And does Dave Dombrowski feel that way? And Sam Fuld and John Middleton and all the brass who make those decisions? Unfortunately, as I've told you before, I'm just a guy with a podcast. I don't make roster decisions for the Phillies, even though sometimes the comments on YouTube treat me like I'm the one making these decisions. But anyway, my point is that's what I would do is I'd keep Turnbull in the rotation and also give Rojas and Castellanos some time. Believe in them. They're going to have big moments as well. This team is super talented. More on the team aspect coming up in our final segment. But next, we're going to preview Game 3. The Phillies haven't lost a series since their second series of the year, a road series in Cincinnati, back in early April. We're now in early May. It's May 1st. Can they continue their winning ways series-wise? Well, they'll need a win in Game 3. And Zack Wheeler is on the mound today or this afternoon out in L.A. Can they get it done? History would tell you yes, and I'll talk you through that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. And let's talk about DoorDash. I knew it was in here somewhere. DoorDash is huge any time of the year, but especially it's big right now because it's almost Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day is the perfect time to get something thoughtful, something special for your mom. And you want it to be as convenient as possible for you to do that. You jump through hoops all the time to make magic happen for gifts, but you don't need to. You can still get a thoughtful, special gift and make it easy on yourself. Still make mom smile. Well, here's what you want to do. Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brands that your mom loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. They make it super easy. You can get a whole bunch of different things. Flowers, gadgets, self-care essentials, all in one place with DoorDash, delivered right to her door. Maybe your mom has a sweet tooth. You want to get her some candy, some food like that. You can do all of that through DoorDash. They're the number one way to conveniently get your mom what she deserves for Mother's Day. And also, they're going to cut you a deal. You can get 50% off your next order, up to $15, when you spend $15 plus on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Locked On MLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms do apply. Let's talk about Prize Picks next. This is a great time of year for it. A lot of stuff going on. And Prize Picks is the number one daily fantasy app to go ahead and check it out, right? They're America's number one fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. That's a lot. And it's the easiest way and the most exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. We're going to talk about the final game of this Phillies series coming up. Well, Zack Wheeler, take his over in strikeouts. He's a monster. That's what I would absolutely do. And then look at some guys that may be poised for a big day at the plate. You're going to go ahead and see on the mound for the Angels in this closer, you got a lefty throwing. So Alec Boehm's been the hottest hitter on the planet. Take his over in hits. Don't do anything dumb. Maybe you believe Castellanos builds on a 3-hit night. Or you could always go under. So maybe you think Nick Castellanos is still going to slump and last night was an anomaly. Either way, you can find ways to win on every single game. Go ahead and check it out. And Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, so many more states. So go ahead and check it out. I feel like I said check it out a bunch of times, but how many times do I have to say it before you do? Prize Picks is the best. Do you need me to cut you a deal? All right. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Go ahead and check out Prize Picks. I'll say it one more time for you. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, let's talk about Game 3 of this series, the final game of Phillies Angels out there on the West Coast. Unfortunately, it will be without Mike Trout. I didn't talk about this in the opener, but we got news yesterday. Mike Trout going to have surgery, meniscus tear. He doesn't even know when he did it. I don't even know when he did it. I watched that entire first game, and I can't even think about when he would have gotten hurt. But we found that out yesterday ahead of the game, so that's a major shame. You always love to see Mike Trout play, especially against the Phillies, especially being a hometown kid. I know there's a lot of people who traveled out there from Philadelphia, part of the draw being that they get to watch Mike Trout, one of the great players of this era. And again, major injury for him. So all those people who wanted to trade for Mike Trout in the offseason, injury issues. We know that's a thing. So it gets a little bit easier to play the Angels because Mike Trout is no longer out there on the field. The Phillies are minus 165 favorites on the money line today. They're 62.8% favorites in the ESPN analytics predictor, and that is because solely, well, maybe not solely, their offense would look good yesterday. That's mainly because Zack Wheeler's on the mound. Wheels is unbelievable, a 2.3 record, but a 1.93 ERA, a .88 whip in 37 and a third innings pitch. He struck out 46. He's only walked 11. He's only allowed 2 home runs. He's only given up 22 hits. He's a monster. Let me just double check with my friends over at FanDuel right now, our friends over at FanDuel, I should say, and see if he's still indeed the leader in the Cy Young Award voting for the National League. I believe he still should be the leader, but I just want to double check, so I'm not giving you bad information. Go ahead and check out FanDuel. You'll be able to bet this if you believe that is the right bet to make. And I mean, the way he's been throwing, he's number one in MLB pitcher power rankings. He's number one in basically every, not stat, but like when you judge who's the best pitcher in baseball and you see like what the experts say, everyone's on Zack Wheeler. And yes, Zack Wheeler is the favorite in the National League Cy Young race right now. So that's why you have such a big advantage for this game. But also, let's look at the opposition. You're facing Sandoval on the mound, Patrick Sandoval, who's 1-4 with a 6.33 ERA. We talked about this ahead of the series. I mean, a +6 ERA against this lineup. Lefty, righty, doesn't matter. It's going to be a problem. Now, here's something that you want to keep an eye on, right? You want to make sure that Rob Thomson doesn't give you I don't like it as people call it a give-up lineup, right? Or are they going to show the give-up lineup today? I don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think that's what they do. I don't think they put that out there. I just call it the lefty lineup, or I guess the anti-lefty lineup. I don't think Rob Thomson thinks he has a worse chance with that lineup. He wouldn't do it if he thought he was going to lose those games. It might seem on paper to be a lesser lineup, but I do believe that Rob Thomson, in his heart of hearts, thinks he has a significant chance to win ball games, even when you play, let's say, Christian Pache in left field, Whit Merrifield at second base for Bryson Stott. You go ahead and put guys out there. I don't know. You DH someone for Kyle Schwarber. Not that he'd ever do that. My point is, like, when you go the anti-lefty lineup and you take some of those young left-handed bats out of the order, I still think you have some good players, like putting Edmundo Sosa out there maybe for Bryson Stott. Like, you still have a good chance, especially when you play a team like the Angels, but especially when you have Zack Wheeler on the mound. So if you see that, I'm not losing my mind. I do think this is a great chance with an off day coming tomorrow, the first one in a while, to kind of say, hey, guys, you got an off day. We got a travel day. Go get one, and we'll rest you tomorrow. So no give-up lineup. I'll keep calling it that because it's just force of habit, but just the righty-heavy, lefty anti lineup. You know what I mean. I'm getting caught up with my words, but everyone knows this Rob Thomson lineup. Will we see it today? I'm not sure. But ultimately, last night, the righties carried you with Nick Castellanos going 3-hit game and late home run, Johan Rojas late home run, Alec Boehm, a big RBI single late, Trey Turner on base a couple times. I think you see more of the same today against Sandoval, and I also think you're due for a Bryce Harper big game. He rarely goes a full series without a big game, and he went 0 for last night. I think you see an opportunity for Bryce Harper to go out there and show off against Sandoval, who hasn't really been able to do a good job of keeping runners off base. He has kept the ball in the yard a good amount, only allowed 2 home runs. But I really like the Phillies in this game. I think, and this could come back to bite me, but I'm going to say it because I trust it. And you guys can feel the right to make fun of me. I shouldn't say it because I'm going to jinx him, but I'm going to say it anyway because that's my job as the host of Locked On Phillies, is to give you my opinion on things. Zack Wheeler kind of feels like an automatic win right now. He does. When he goes out on the mound, unless you're playing like the Braves or the Dodgers or like one of the top teams in the American League, like Zack Wheeler, to me, when I watch him, feels like, oh, I should bet on this guy to win every single time. Maybe not record the win, but for his team to win every single time. Like, him and Ranger Suarez feel like auto W's right now. And I first thought this last start for Zack Wheeler. I'm going to have to roll with it again because I haven't said it yet, but now that I've vocalized that, I need to back that up with believing they can win today, and I don't know why you wouldn't. The Phillies have some really, really good momentum. We're going to talk about a milestone for them as we wrap up today's episode, but just looking at Game 3, I find it very hard to believe that the Angels, without Mike Trout, are going to find a way to put enough runs on the board to beat Zack Wheeler. And also with a 6+ ERA pitcher on the mound, it all feels like the Phillies are going to end this series with another win, especially with an off day. Off days are always better after you pull a victory down. So those are my thoughts on Game 3. Hopefully we're going to be having a fun recap episode tomorrow as we talk about this series as a whole and what we've learned from their time in Los Angeles, the city of Angels, or right now the city of Phillies, if they can pull off this victory. But wrapping up, we're going to talk about the month that went by. And this will be a bigger conversation on tomorrow's episode too, as we reviewed the month that was. It was a great month for the Phillies, and they made some history in more ways than one. We'll discuss it as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. And let's talk about Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go is the best. There's no better app, all right? We got to talk all about this, and you got to know how awesome this app is. They've got millions upon millions upon millions of downloads, and it's not just because people remember like the old-timey Monopoly game. No, this game's a little bit different. It's got some of the same principles, but in this one, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. You get emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't that feel like it's going to annoy your friends? Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day because they got constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win. Or you can get rent frenzies. I think my apartment's doing that to me right now. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. But anyway, there's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And it's been game on for the Phillies in the month of April. Well, I guess it was game on for the Phillies in the month of April. April is past now. And the Philadelphia Phillies rounded out the month with their 20th win of April, or I guess their 20th win since the start of the season. But they set a franchise record for wins in the month of April. They've been outstanding. Like, actually, yeah, I guess because they lost the opener. So, yeah, it would have been 20 wins in the month of April. They've been outstanding basically since get-go. That Atlanta Braves series wasn't great. The Red Series and the second series of the year, they lose that one. And they have either won or split every series since. They are the first team in Major League Baseball to 20 wins this year. So not only did they set a franchise record for for wins in the month of April, they're the first baseball team to win 20 games. So for everyone who was worried 2 weeks into the season about, another slow start, they've had the hottest start in baseball when you count up the amount of wins that they have. I mean, it's unbelievable how well this team has played early. And they deserve all the credit in the world. When we talked about a fast start, this is what we were talking about. I know it's an advantageous schedule. I know they've got a long way to go. I know this doesn't mean that they're not going to now inverse like we talked about on yesterday's episode and have a slower middle of the season. They got to continue to keep the foot on the gas pedal if they want to stick with teams like the Braves and the Dodgers and other teams up there. Somehow, miraculously, the Guardians are also in that conversation out in the American League Central. But congrats to them, I suppose. The Phillies are en fuego right now, and they're going to continue to win. They're going to continue to win series. Their pitching's outstanding. Their hitting's outstanding. Their fielding is above average. Their bullpen is above average. And I just feel really good about this team. So we can officially say, right, I'm decreeing right now, as the powers vested in me by the podcast of Locked On Phillies and the Locked On Podcast Network, the Philadelphia Phillies have officially had a hot start to the 2024 season. That narrative is dead and gone. No more cold starting team. No more waiting till June to hit. No more this team needs to dig out of a hole. Nope. They started hot. They are the first team to 20 wins. They're probably going to be the first team to 21 wins because I think they win today. And this team has been outstanding. Like I said, we're going to talk more in tomorrow's episode since it's an off day about the stats from the month. Everything that you need to know about the month of April. See if maybe Alec Boehm has an NL Player of the Month in him. Maybe Zack Wheeler or Ranger Suarez have NL Pitcher of the Month in him. There could be some major monthly awards handed out, so we'll keep you updated on that. But 20 wins by the end of April is awesome. And also just to show you the difference, right? Because 20 wins, it's good, but you have 162 games. It might not truly show you the full scope of how much better they've been. They're 20-11, which is 9 games over 500. Last year, 2 games over 500, and they ended up winning 90 games. So, yeah, they're on a pretty darn good pace, those Phillies. And we're on a great pace here on Locked On Phillies for more great content. So make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. Thank you for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hopefully we're talking about a win tomorrow, but I'll talk to you next time on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.